All right, I think we're going to jump right in. The beginning of the video is just sort of an overview. I mentioned this earlier. Um, Dom very kindly shot some video of the show for us so that we could see, and he did this like cool zoom effect, and I haven't quite wrapped my head around it. It reminds me of something from my childhood, but it's like you get really close to the paintings, which is amazing, and like right in the work. So this is kind of each wall. This is the back wall of the show. And then this is the left wall when you walk in. And then this is the right wall. So we're kind of diving right into each of the artists. We're starting with Essence. Essence Enwere is a Black, queer, interdisciplinary artist living and working in occupied Oceti, Shakowin, and Wapukute land, now known as Minneapolis, Minnesota. They received their BFA in graphic design for the U of M. And in 2024, and their work has been exhibited across Minnesota with pieces held in collections, including the National Gallery of Art Library, the Minnesota Historical Society, Bainbridge Museum of Art. Featured in Art Dose magazine, the Star Tribune, and Care 11, and where he uses design type printmaking to create artistic publications that preserve and reimagine Black history, genealogy, and ecology. Their practice treats typography and imagery as living artifacts, weaving together ecology, ancestry, cultural memory to honor heritage and explore the deep interconnections between land, language, and lineage. And when Essence was in my printmaking class, it was just always so incredible, the different, just like ways you thought about typography in particular. Moving into Daniel Benedum, his art practice examines themes of space and place by creating artworks from the areas that he's lived. Most of his images go between different public and private interior spaces, exterior architecture, and city infrastructure. Through these different locations, he documents visual elements that can also be witnessed by others who may find themselves passing through these spaces and places. The interior design, exterior architecture, city infrastructure, and visual elements share with others a specific way of knowing community spaces. Using one-point perspective and drawing techniques, each image offers a feeling of passing by or jumping into that specific scene. The artworks aim to create a different feeling of knowing, mystery, curiosity about the specificity of each place, and how these different places come to be part of his life and possibly shared with others. In particular, I always was impressed with Daniel's color sensitivity and sensibility and the way that he would use color, not just expressively, but like spatially. So in this work, like it's just so trippy because you kind of feel like this one and especially the one two images before, like you're in the painting itself. Like particularly kind of, when we're zooming out from it, it feels that detail and that color, just like very visceral, kind of being there feeling. Z. Claire Swenson is a local Minneapolis artist. She's been making work for more than 20 years, mainly drawing, collage, and Z. Claire got her BFA at the U of M in 2017. Her latest body of work consists of silhouettes of people and shapes, full of her intricate pen and ink shapes and design. Z. Claire also is in several bands and co-hosts a local radio show, which I've listened to many times, and she takes requests, which is a favorite of mine. One of the things that I love about Z. Claire's work is that while some of the styles seem very different from each other, they're actually not. It's all kind of this connection to the line, to the hands, like to the body. And those are kind of, I feel like, through lines. but also that Ziegler has a sense of humor, and that sense of humor like shows up in some of the collage work, shows up in the types of lines that are used, um, and like shows up in kind of the, I don't know, like there's always a sense of whimsy. Whimsy is maybe not the right word, but like seeing things that may seem ubiquitous, but are actually very special and like evoke a lot of meaning. So some of the pieces like this collage piece are similar to some of the work that she was doing at Minneapolis College, but also there were some larger silhouette pieces. And those have kind of evolved through the years. This is a piece I remember really well from the past, using that kind of like ubiquitous imagery. And then this drawing of Palmer's I felt was very apropos for um, having lost Palmer's so recently. Then we're moving into Johanna. Johanna's statement is influenced by modern urban landscape as well as her outdoor job as a gardener in the cities. Her work often incorporates multiple mediums, layers, and the mixing of organic and structural shapes to reflect change and fluidity of societies that's constantly moving, destroying, creating. Through this lens, and sparked by the biblical idea of seeing the one over the 99, she's naturally attracted to the quiet and ignored corners of the Twin Cities. She recognizes the beauty in the mundane, in the world around her, and the very personal contemplative method of painting is her way to take these moments and bring them back to life for the viewer to see. And in her work, she aims to give a spotlight to that which does not typically have one. So I obviously love paintings of garbage. That's just my number one thing. And then moving on to Timmy. So I put in this piece that's not in the show, but is one of my 100% favorite pieces Timmy made while a student. And it's this beautiful, just very evocative triptych, kind of reflecting on the flood. And so I had to tuck that one in there, even though it isn't in the show. This is a piece from the show. Timmy and I have to pause it for a minute here. Timmy and I bonded over a love for Tori Amos way back. One of the things that is in Timmy's bio is that she's a visual artist who loves collecting dolls and t-shirts, among other things, and going to as many concerts as her income will allow. Her creative work includes watercolor painting, drawing, and designing custom dolls. So my love for her work really connects to a lot of the paintings that she did in class. And currently, she is a student at the U of M. And then lastly, Cassie Misseldine isn't here. She couldn't join us, but I wanted to highlight her work too. Cassie Misseldine is an art therapist and multimodal artist based in St. Paul, Minnesota, where they make art, learn new instruments, write, walk their dog, and pay attention to the way light bounces off of things. They're drawn to many types of materials, including paint, found objects, and fibers, and love to see what shapes, textures, and ideas emerge from the process of making. Cassie's creative practice helps them to set their mind on a path of emotional stability amidst ups and downs and gives them useful metaphors for deepening their understanding of themselves, their connections to others, and the world around them. As an art therapist, Cassie creates space for the people they work with to practice their own self-reflection and move towards growth and healing through connecting with their own innate creativity. And in Cassie's work, when they were in school, they were making a lot of work on kind of craft paper and brown paper, and then that migrated and kind of like reusing materials. And eventually that kind of changed into working on paper bags, which was, I thought a really great way of using a material that is something everybody probably has in their house, but making that an arena for self-expression and exploration. So those are our artists in the show. Welcome to everybody that is here. I think that some of the things that I would like to do, if we're okay with it, is just like have a conversation about the type of work you're making now, maybe reflect on work that you made in the past and like maybe I don't know, not everybody loves like what are you going to do in the future, but like I do think that's helpful is like what are things you're interested in pursuing in the future because for me checking in with students and former students it's often like a time machine, you know. It's like you see them and then it's like 5 years later they're doing this other thing. It's so amazing. So I that's an exciting privilege for me to be able to kind of see people's growth. But I always like to check in on like on the ground, like where are they at and what are they thinking about. So without further ado, I think if it's okay, we're gonna just go in the same order. So I might start with Essence, and then we'll kind of have everybody talk, and then we'll open up Q&A to anybody else that wants to ask questions. For folks in the crowd, if you do have questions that you don't want to say out loud, if you want to put them in the chat, great. So Essence, what kinds of things like how do you feel like your work has changed since you were in school?
Yeah, I feel like it's changed a lot. I think from when we worked together and you saw my work, I was experimenting with in general. Uh, Back then, I was trying to branch out of just screen printing and seeing how printmaking could work into my practice a lot more seamlessly. I think the biggest growth is I think all the things I do fit together far more seamlessly inside of my work than I did before. I feel like before I was clashing between maybe fine art and design and my design education I was getting at the same time. And I think now they feel like a lot more harmonious in the way that I not only approach my practice, but the way the works come together. And I attribute that to um, classes like yours, where I was allowed to explore and see how those things came to life. Bookmaking and getting into that about 2.5 years ago had just allowed all these mediums to flow in together a lot easier for me. That allows me to tell the stories that I've been wanting to tell. So,
Maybe we'll just Q&A right now. I mean, that's like we can keep it cash. So do you feel like bookmaking is something I love, but it's so hard. So what kind of what inspired your love of bookmaking? Because I feel like that is something right now. I'm seeing that in your other show. Could you talk maybe a little bit about the um I could bring it up too in a second, but like the
yeah.
accordion full piece and like kind of where does your love for bookmaking come from? Does it process or is it the form or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's kind of all of the above. I think for me, I struggled to figure out how my art could kind of fit within fine arts, and then I accidentally I had credits that I needed to have to get financial aid at the U, and I took a bookmaking class, an artist book slash publications course, and it really changed my work really significantly. I really fell into the process. It's very detail oriented, very hands-on. It includes things like letterpress and printmaking and so many different forms of printmaking you can make into a book that I found really beautiful. There's a level of accessibility and intimacy that comes with books and bookmaking as an art form and object. It's like sculptural and narrative, and I get to be really nerdy about all the single details. I get to pick the book like cover and the way I make the book, the shape of the book, um, how tall, how skinny, textures, what I'm going to say in it, what I'm not going to say in it. You can get incredibly detail oriented, which makes my brain very happy that I love, and I'm able to include all the things that I've been into one form. So I'm able to include type and lettering and as well as like things like photography and printmaking, kind of all in one uniform space that helps tell the narrative and story that maybe I wasn't being able to fully express, I think, in just one capacity. So it's been able to grow my practice quite a lot just to explore the medium as a whole. And I'm right now expanding quite a bit even for where I was before, and I'm excited for that growth. So
I really feel that. I mean, and thinking back to your website and kind of the way that you had it designed when I knew you, it feels like the book is sort of a natural physical outgrowth of that. And that it's able to give like there's a lot of multi-layered kind of interconnectivity that you can bring into the book.
100%.
the book form, which I was really excited to see those aspects. So I'm gonna see if I can I share your website? We're trying. Full disclosure, I have a big crack in my screen, so if I ever look very confused, it's because I'm trying to look around it. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, so it's in the presentation, but I'll put this in the chat for people so that they can like check it out on the side. But it kind of goes through your different projects. Um, I was
Yeah,
always just like very impressed that you invent typefaces. I'm always like how,
Thanks.
you know, I'm always pretty just like fascinated by that. And then so you're still you've got like your hand in lots of different pots.
always. I don't know if I can stop. Like I have a I have a penchant for wanting to grow, but also to tell stories in multimedia and forms. And
Yeah,
it's a great thing that I get to involve my lettering in so many of my books and photography and some of my photography collage, which has been kind of a space that I've been really moving into. So
that is so cool. And then could you tell us a little about this is like a newer piece that I saw was in a recent show. Uh,
yes. Um,
how what where the idea come from and like kind of what are your themes or ideas with this piece?
the piece is titled Shining Revelry. It's a piece about, well, it makes more context. And in the show, a public functionary titled Venus Reincarnated. And I really wanted to think about reincarnation as it relates to Black American ancestry. A lot of people, I think, have a lot of shame around saying they were descendants of slaves. And I really wanted to, what does it look like to honor that pain and really honor really the resistance that it takes to exist as a Black person in America, to exist as a slave. And I did a lot of collage work into looking into archives. I took photography of kind of bottom plant work. Um, and then the whole book is made into risograph. I wanted to do the tradition of making a book set. So I think I'm always weaving in things of like design, artifacts, book making, kind of histories as well as my like personal history and narrative. This is the first time I think worked with things like gold leaf. This book also works flat where you see the peaks and valleys, but it also is made to work on a wall setting. It can be hung up next to things like a painting as well, which I find really fun and fascinating.
That's amazing. It's a beautiful piece, and I feel like it does all of those things. Folks, anybody have any questions? And I'm gonna put, if I can navigate properly, I'm gonna put your your email or your website in the chat for everybody. Any questions that folks have before we move on? Thank you so much for sharing your work with us, since it's beautiful. I'm just so excited. Actually, I'll ask my last question that I've totally spaced out on. What are you excited about next?
I'm really excited to push my practice. I think right now I'm in a lot more of a traditional book space, but I want to really break the form of the book in my next level of work and also do larger forms of printmaking. Right now, a lot of my books and works are very intimate, which I enjoy, again, because it has a level of accessibility and easeability to be really intimate and small and portable. But I want to see what it looks like for me to push myself in terms of scale for books and general printmaking. So I'm excited for that next level of my work.
Okay. Thank you, Essence.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, we're going to move on to Daniel. Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about your work that you used to make and like maybe how the work you make now is different, like how you've evolved?
Yeah, I think when I was in like at MCTC with you, it was really like an experimental phase of making, really exploring like color and different mediums, different like symbolic imagery. And then as I moved towards like undergrad, I really got fixated on creating self-portraits and then like the spaces that those self-portraits go into. And then there was like sort of a break. So like making just self-portraits, self-portraits within spaces, and then spaces themselves. As a way to document like my life and like maybe my like social place within the community that am a part of, or as I move around, like they kind of change. But yeah, I think that's kind of where it went. And then they're always evolving. I'm really curious about like materials and different materials. So like in this show, I have the one with like the metal pieces, the construction zone. So that was like a whole thing when I was leaving undergrad. I was really into like making these like construction zone pieces and collecting the materials. And as I've gone through graduate school, I keep exploring like different materials and different ways to like mix up painting and like thinking about different ways to define or like kind of challenge that definition of a painting. And so yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Well, what could you tell us a little bit about your process? Like, how do you
Mhm.
some of the things I love in your work, besides the color, are like the types of space that you create and how you manipulate perspective. How do you do studies? Do you use photographs? Like, do you kind of work in those different ways? Use your imagination? Like, kind of how does your process? I mean, you don't have to give us your secrets, but more like how does
Yeah.
your process happen?
I generally start off with like photographs. I think in undergrad I would kind of do one photograph, and then as it's evolved, I take like a series of photographs. So I kind of will create like a panoramic view that I will draw out. And then from that, I can sort of decide like what colors are going to go into it. I am like a pretty sketch heavy person. So for each painting I make, I have probably like two or three sketches where I'm like testing out different colors. I'm seeing what different washes combine together. I'm really trying to create like, yeah, almost that feeling that you can like jump in. I'm not sure necessarily like if I have like a really like conscious way of doing that or if it's just like through the building of it all that I decide like what is interacting well versus what isn't. And yeah, and then the spaces I decide on are kind of spaces that I end up passing regularly or I find myself in a lot. Maybe it's spaces that I spend with my friends, spaces that I feel like really connected to that I think other people also find themselves connected to. So that's kind of how I decide on what I'm going to make. And then I go through a process of photographing the space maybe over like a week or two, from there sketching, and then to like making a painting pretty much.
Have you always worked? The current works are in oil.
Hmm.
How have you always worked in oil? Have you worked in other media? What do you feel like oil brings to your paintings?
Oil painting is my favorite thing. I think I learned in oil painting, and so like my first community college class, I did drawing one and like painting one, and I just like fell in love with like the way that you can sort of erase with oil paint. I think it's different than other paints, the way that you can glaze with it, the different types of materials that can be added. There's like a textural value to it. And so as I was like learning to paint, I think it was really almost like a patient material to like mistakes because you can kind of like go back and really fix things. As like watercolor and other types of paint, I think are really hard to fix sometimes, or like you can only get you can't always like take back what's been put on.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so I did that a lot in oil painting, but now as like I've kind of like am growing as an artist, I feel like I have finished school and I'm always curious about new things. I've been trying to learn how to do like other ways of painting, so like quilting and embroidering or watercolor or kind of like Photoshop and different ways of that. And
Mhm.
playing around with things is kind of how I learned to evolve.
Cool. I'm gonna just share. I know that you mentioned that this is like a little, like it's a couple years old, but I still think it gives us ideas of the types of work you've made like semi-recently.
Yeah,
So should I just click?
you
This
can
is
click
where my
this one. Yeah, I kind of have it divided
crack
here.
in my screen gets in the way. Here we go. I just really love like how we get this feeling in the work of space being something that's like both kind of cozy, but also
Mhm.
giving you an altered, like it's not an altered state, but it's like we're entering your space. We're
Mhm.
entering a different space that's familiar, but it's also specific to you and the things that you're observing, like the things you notice in terms of color and pattern. Um, and those kind of being things that invigorate the space with some life, I guess. Especially, I remember this piece. I feel like
Mhm.
you maybe posted it online. It might have been these. I
Mhm.
recall, like, I can still see that in my mind's eye, the pattern making that you use, and then like the visual rhythm of like the plants,
Mhm.
or the pattern of like the lights or the disco balls, like that to me is very just like visually it's like mesmerizing and satisfying, but then it's in like a cozy space or a space that
Yeah.
feels familiar. So it's kind of in a way it reminds me a little bit of Johanna, but just a different style, like seeing these things that are aesthetically really interesting or connect to you, but that they are in a space that's maybe mundane. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like
Yes.
um there's something there that it's like not the same, but there's a similarity that I really gravitate toward. And so these pieces were kind of connected to your BFA, correct? Okay,
Yeah. This was
cool.
my BFA exhibition. And
Got
then
it.
um yeah,
Nice.
that's just what I have on here. Um
And then how do
so
you feel like work is changing? Like, I think one of these pieces is in the show. How do you feel like your work has changed just in the last couple of years?
yeah, I feel like right now, like I grad school for me was all about like learning how to um I feel like it got harder because you're gonna have like a job and like making artwork gets hard. So I think a lot of my experience now is like kind of learning how to like find that like hour or so in a day to like make artwork or have that time to do things. So my work is changing in a way that is a little bit more like portable, a little bit smaller. And then yeah, I think I'm kind of returning back to painting at the end of graduate school. I feel like I sort of took a different route at that time. I was making more, I still was doing landscapes. I kind of moved to like emotional or like imaginative landscapes and then working with like installation and creating images from like all these little bits of pieces. Um, and now I'm kind of returning back to like making bigger work and kind of deciding maybe like my process is changing. It's like a little bit slower. I'm really kind of dedicated to thinking about like a specific narrative or a history that I've had as like a creative person.
Mhm.
So looking at like maybe some like old family photographs and like more like private spaces, but then thinking about how those spaces become shared or those stories become sort of maybe not for everyone, but part of like a larger narrative in a way.
Cool.
It's kind of a broad answer, but
No, that's great. And it's a different. It's kind of like the more dialed in than just like how were things different in the past. It's like you were. It's more
yeah.
specific. Does
I,
anybody have questions for Daniel in the group? You can also throw it in the chat if you are feeling shy. So I think I will ask my kind of me last question. What are you excited for in your future work?
mm, I think right now I'm like so into learning new mediums. So I love like fabrics, quilting, embroidery. I'm really excited to explore like dyeing fabrics and then
Mm,
kind of learning how to like pull that into image making and like how I can like make paintings with that.
mhm,
I feel like the more I spend time sort of experimenting with materials and like learning how not exactly precisely to do something, the more it becomes fun for me to like make new images, make new paintings, make new work. And so I've been exploring a lot of things like that in Photoshop and using that to like sort of create different films and sketches together.
mhm. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody have questions? All right. Thank you, Daniel. Yay.
Thanks.
Claire, moving on to you. How do you feel like your work has evolved through through time? I feel like potentially you of all of the students, I feel like I may because we worked together in like 2019. 13, maybe? And I think you're muted right now.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, it my work feels very different, but the same at the same time. Like I guess it feels genuine to what I've been doing.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I used to draw like those patterns and stuff, and then I kind of took a break and went to collage. Now I'm back doing those patterns, but it's like they have grown over time and gotten more like intricate and tight together and like have more of a like an intention, I guess, than
Hmm.
they've ever had.
Hmm.
And I feel the same way about the collage too, kind of.
Do you think that there are, I guess I see connections between the drawings and the collages, but I see it more as a process connection, maybe.
Yeah,
What for
absolutely.
you is a like is there a connection for you, or do you feel like they're kind of different bodies of work?
I feel like there is a connection. It's like if you see my drawings, you're seeing all of my brain on the paper and the process that it takes to get there.
Hmm.
And the collage is like that's like just the thought that's like because it's not as like time consuming. It's all like the my thought that is the work, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Hmm.
So they are the same, but it's like one is just like more in depth or something.
Got it. Do you think that do you think that you're able to do different things with them for
With
yourself?
the yeah,
Like
with the
satisfy different kind of, I don't know, like not
yeah.
motivations, but I almost always feel like the collages have like a little bit of a snarky sense of humor that would be harder to do in ink. And I feel like the ink sometimes, especially like the drawing of Palmer's or the drawings of your dad have a lot more. It's almost like not an earnestness because that sounds corny. It sounds cringe. Just kidding.
Well,
But
they're more
you know what I
emotional, I
mean?
guess.
It's you're there authentically and it's showing emotion. And it would be like not something that you could necessarily do with a collage.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Or maybe it's just something I haven't done with the collage.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the one you said that you've known for a long time with the cigarettes and the whiskey,
Hmm.
it's like it is funny,
Yeah.
but it's also those are all from like my dad's Playboys. But like they're on a NATO certificate. They're on the back of a NATO certificate that he got in the 60s when he was in the Navy.
Hmm.
The smoke damage is from when our house started on fire in the third grade. So it's like there's the sense of
So to
humor, but
you,
it's
there
still like,
there is like the actual physical
yeah.
objects have
Yeah.
that
But the
connection.
difference is like I have to tell you all of that for you to know that. But
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. See, and I'm not even sure I knew those things about it, you know?
yeah,
Wow.
that's kind
Um,
of something I'd share if I have time or if it makes sense.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
like that.
Do you, what are you most excited about working on right now?
Uh, well, I've been doing a lot of little pieces because I used to work really large scale. I've been drawing a lot of little things, which is fun. And honestly, people buy them, so that's cool. But I am excited to work larger again, drawing wise, because I'm realizing that there's some designs and patterns that I miss using, and that basically having a large surface is like me be able to go full throttle and like
Hmm.
let out designs that I can't fit in a tiny little space. So I'm excited to get my exercise, I guess, stretch my legs.
So one of the things I was curious about, which I don't think I've ever asked you, is how do you generate, like, where do the designs come from? Because like they are always changing, but then they'll kind of recur. And they seem very meditative to me in terms of like making them.
You know,
How do you make them up?
they the answer is I don't like they just come from the ether. And one thing that I want to work on in the future is I guess writing a thesis on this work and about how so often when I show people my drawings, like I used to piss me off to be like, oh yeah, I used to draw like that. Like there wasn't anything special about it, but then I realized that everybody has these designs somewhere in them. And some guy at an art fair recently was like, oh yeah, people have said this has looked like other things. He goes, oh, it's primal. Like everybody has that in them. Like, no matter what part of the world, there's like, because my work looks like different line work from around the world. But I want to write this thesis about how it's kind of like my show that just came down is called Through Lines. Just I want this work to express how we're all connected somehow, and that's really special, and it's really important right now more than ever. So I guess that's what I want to like work on, elaborating on.
And then do you still work up at Duck Duck?
I do.
Okay, I'm gonna share
through.
that.
I think it's through like the 20th of December or something. I'm not sure.
It's well worth seeing in person because it's just mesmerizing. I've always loved it. I don't agree with whoever told you I could, like, I would look at them like, how do you come up with any different? Like, it's always,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's maybe similar to, like, as a painter, I can generate a lot of different colors. So that's the only thing that's like maybe a similarity. But I definitely could not do what you do and never have and never will be able to. So,
well, it's worth noting that excuse me, when people say that, it's often when they're seeing a picture on my phone.
okay.
And it's like, it just doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
People don't know what they're looking at.
No, and like I think for context too, because we don't have any of your old pieces, like your pieces, you're like the kind of when I got to know you, you would draw silhouettes and fill them in with these patterns. They'd be like life guys, people, which just it's always been so stunning to me. So thank you for sharing your work with us. Does anybody have questions for Zeke?
Yeah,
and then what are you, I think I already asked you what you're excited to be working on. Do you have any future pathways that you are aiming toward in terms of your art?
I guess what I was saying before, like elaborating on like describing in this world that I consider these drawings worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Elaborating on that and then for the rest, I don't know. It's like I don't know where I'm going. And I want to make a small plug that this Saturday in the afternoon, like 2 to 4, I might be there selling little drawings at Smitten Kitten.
Oh, cool. Okay. I will put that in the chat as well. Right on. And then your radio show, do you want to throw that in the chat for people?
I don't know how I would do that. That's fine. It's
okay. All right. Well, if people are interested, they can hit me up and I'll figure out how to share it. Cool. Thank you, Claire. Yay!
Yep. Thank you.
All right, and then moving on, I think Johanna was next in the video. I
might have to jet out soon, okay. So just
bye. Johanna, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you are making, like how it's evolved from the work maybe you were making back in school?
Yeah, for sure. So, sorry if there's like background noise. Tell me if it's annoying. There's people in my building. But yeah, I graduated in 2020 from Minneapolis College. So that was like
time.
a crazy year to graduate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But back then I think I was influenced a lot by music and like I play guitar and I used to play all the time and I was like playing at the church I was going to. So that was like a huge influence for me back then. And then I graduated and like the only job that I could find was this outdoor job as a gardener. And so I started that in 2020 and then like kept painting along with working there. And then I never really painted flowers or anything like plants or anything. I was more focused on like just urban landscapes and like city life and stuff like that. So I think that year, 2020, like that winter to 2021, I painted my first set of dumpsters. I saw, I was driving in West St. Paul and like at night and saw these dumpsters like lit up by a gas station. And like it was such a cool like night scene kind of that stood out to me. And I was like, that's so cool. It's, like just the structure of it and like the shape and colors and it being at night was like it drew me in. So since then, it's just been like this motif that has stayed in my work as I continue to paint. And then after working for a number of years gardening, the flowers started showing up. And combining like, yeah, like the plant life with the city life kind of together, started to be really interesting to me. And yeah, from there, last winter, I started meeting with a friend of mine who also paints. Like through the winter, we met twice a week and would just like encourage each other um, in our artistic practices. And that's kind of what most of this, the work I have in this show came out of. The few pieces that I have here, I think all of them I painted last winter. Uh, yeah.
And then so you've been doing some plein air too. Do you do plein air in the city?
Yeah, I do mostly like in parks and stuff. Um, but I want to, that's like a thing I think that I want to get more into is like setting up in more kind of industrial like city areas. Um, and painting outside, like that kind of imagery.
What kind of do you use acrylic? Do you kind of do mixed media? Like what is your main media that you like to use?
I really like using acrylic, which doesn't really work that well outside because it dries so fast. But I really like that it does dry fast. That then I can add layers and like let it dry and add different mediums on top of it, like marker, colored pencil, stuff like that, and then create these layers and like collage things right into it using like acrylic mediums. But I am getting more into using oil for like plein air stuff and yeah.
Cool. And then I think you've got an Instagram. Are you okay with us sharing that
Yeah, for
in the
sure.
chat? And I think it is, let me see if I can remember it. Oh, I'm not going to remember it.
Should be Johanna Joy Art.
Is
All
it
one
all
word.
one word? I
Hmm.
put it in the thing, and then are there any underscores?
No.
Okay, like that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
That is
Yay.
it. Good job.
Um, that I've been watching, like the reason I reached out to you, obviously I had you in class and I loved your work then, but I started seeing these garbage paintings and I love garbage paintings, as I mentioned, because like not to get too deep into it, but I live near an apartment and their dumpster has started overflowing onto my property all the time. And it was making me so angry. And my students were like, well, I was like, what do I do? And they were like, you should just make art out of it. And I was like, I want to in my heart, but I was like, I'm not, it's like too much for me, but I can really enjoy it in your paintings. So they were kind of like, you need to come with curiosity, Laura, instead of just being mad. And like it was a way of kind of changing it and thinking about the aesthetic qualities that are there in the chaos, that like that's just part of life. And so that's something I value in your work a lot is that you're showing the life like as it is. You're not making it like your paintings are beautiful and aesthetically rich, but the garbage looks like garbage looks. It's just like in a pile, overflowing. Here's a, you're seeing kind of like the quotidian moments of like aesthetic beauty or aesthetic interest, and it's not you're not like imbuing it, at least from my perspective, with like a negativity that I naturally associate. So that was it was, and also I think too, just kind of going back to things I was talking about, I think with Daniel, the visual rhythms and the color, I think are big aspects of your work that really draw me in. So what are you excited about making in the future?
Ooh, so this year has been pretty crazy for me. A lot of changes like in my personal life. So I haven't been painting as much, but it's kind of been like this break to let myself like recharge creatively and just be observing things around me and like taking inspiration from things like um, just daily life.
Like getting
And
that energy back, like almost
yeah,
like a fallow period.
yeah, like coming back into like I was moving around a lot. I got married, like just a lot
Congrats.
of things happening. Thank you. So now that I'm kind of like settling into this new chapter in my life, I'm just excited to see what inspiration comes from it. Like maybe it's something totally new that I've never done before. Um, yeah, and like through this winter, just kind of settling down, like how nature is like slowing down, just kind of fall into that too, and maybe spend some time like just like playing with materials and see what comes out of it. But yeah.
Great. Thank you, Johanna.
Mhm. Thank you.
And then did anybody have questions? I didn't ask, which is rude, but I feel like okay. If someone does, you can also throw it in the chat. Um, Timmy, we're moving on to you. How are you doing? We haven't gotten to talk, but Timmy left me like the sweetest note on the chalkboard when you dropped off your artwork, and I took a picture of it because it made my day. So I just want to put that out there. But
I
um,
tried so hard to get there before you left,
oh my
but
gosh,
I
it's just
couldn't do it.
yeah. You're like we both. It's like we're passing ships. So you've been making a ton of work for school. I've seen
Yeah.
so many different things posted, so I'm really excited about kind of all of the evolution that's happening. What things are you kind of working on now, and how has that like changed from what maybe you were working on when I had you in class?
I think a lot of the different classes I've taken have really expanded my idea of what I can do, and I've always liked mixed media, but it's getting like more dimensional and things. Unfortunately, I was really excited to be in the show, but unfortunately, I I would say for the last 3 semesters, I have all this work that's like 95% finished, and I will submit it for grading, and I'll be like, oh, I'll finish that soon. And then it doesn't get finished. So I
Mhm.
had a lot of pieces that I would have preferred to put in the show that are better representation, but they
Mhm.
just were like not quite complete.
Well, we were talking a little bit earlier. I don't know if you're in the chat yet, about maybe moving the show, like traveling the show to Minneapolis College. And so if people are interested in that, into it, let me know so we can move it. I would probably do it over winter break, but then you could add to it. So if there's things like you need back, you can participate. You don't have to do the exact same pieces, but you could like either just send them all there or you could switch out some if you want or add more. So that's something we can talk about it too. But how has moving into your current program, you feel like some things I'm hearing you say are like it's expanding some of the possibilities for you and working mixed media? Because that is something I always notice that you like to work in different, like using different materials or kind of like bringing in other forms. Do you feel like you're getting to explore that during your BFA experience?
Yes, because a lot of the assignments are, we get a lot of assignments that are kind of somewhat open-ended. I took a mixed media class two semesters ago, and then last semester I took a dimensional painting. And one thing I did a piece where I incorporated embroidery. I dyed the fabric. I embroidered on it, and then I've gotten these canvas that's not stretched. So I paint on that and then I cut that away or cut the shape of the painting and then sew floral fabric to the back and stuff that so it's almost like a pillow. I've been like beading that stuff as well.
Wow.
And it's just like all these interesting ways to I I see my art as like storytelling.
Mhm.
So I like the different ways that I can tell that story or expand it.
Yeah, absolutely. What are things that you are excited to do in the future? Like maybe it's classes that you're excited that are upcoming, or maybe it's projects like you are excited to work on.
I'm excited to finish the 6 foot tall painting that I've been working on. I've
Yeah.
never done a painting that big. And
Wow.
I always, when I was at MCTC, I really have always been like a person that does smaller art.
Mhm.
And I've tried to push myself to do larger scale things, and that's generally been hard. But now I'm kind of more into doing the larger pieces.
Mhm.
I started yesterday. I started just in a little notebook, but I started painting. I had always wanted to do my own tarot cards, so I started working on that.
Cool.
I'm excited. I got a few more semesters, but I'm excited to be done. I just
Yeah,
want to be out of
no,
school.
because it can
I
be a
love
long
it, but
haul.
I'm ready to be
Yeah,
done.
it's a long haul, and sometimes the thing I always didn't like in school is when an assignment becomes like a chore instead of supporting like a project, you know? That is
Yeah,
a challenge. I think that's just part of like the structure of institutions. You know, when
I
they,
took a paint. Yeah, I took a painting class where like the parameters were kind of a little too strict for me, and I did 5 paintings in that class, and I didn't like any of them.
yeah.
Like I wouldn't keep any of them.
And I think, it can work for some people, but it's also like, what is your creative personality? If it's kind of going at odds with how you like to make work and manifest ideas, then it's just a hoop to jump through instead of building your capacity and challenging you and exposing you to new things. So that can be frustrating. Well, solidarity with you. And sometime we need to get some coffee so we can
Yeah,
catch up and I can see kind of some of these projects you're working on. Thank you for participating in the show.
yeah.
Um,
Thanks for
I
asking me.
I just love. Can you tell us a little bit about the watercolors? I'm gonna see if I have like a little picture of. See if I can pull it up of the watercolor of this little character, this little guy. He's
Yeah, that
he
was
is so darn cute.
right. That was an assignment. That's like for when I was still at MCTC.
Okay.
And we just had to these are all little things that I own. I set up a collage. So I've got that
Okay.
little frustrated cat and the little chair and the doll horse,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
set them up different ways.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not normally a still life person, but I
Yeah.
really enjoy doing that. And it kind of like suits my personality, I
Uh-huh.
think.
Uh-huh. I love how you do the colors and like the washes, but also just like it looks like he's over it.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm sick of this Minnesota stuff. Get me out of here.
he doesn't like the cold.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, anybody have any questions for Timmy before we wrap it up? Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I will send out a link. I'm going to post this. I'll edit it a little and then I'll post it. They'll post it on the Riverland website so we can all watch it. I appreciate so much that you chose to spend some time today checking out these artists. And again, what a beautiful show. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, and then Timmy just put your Instagram. You stuck it in the chat for everybody so they can check that out too. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Yay. All right. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you so much.